How are you today? I'm Mills Lane, and this is The Lane. If you're new to this channel, please do us a favor and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We offer a variety of shows. We tackle many different topics, and we try to keep it true. So, the big story tonight or today on The Lane is that one of the founding members of the Roots has passed away. Rapper Malik B. His real name is Malik Abdul Basit. Um, at the age of 47, so he was just a founding member of the Roots. Um, Famous members are, of course, Black Thought and Questlove. Uh, for those who are not familiar with the Roots are possibly the last band, hip hop band that was mainstream. As you know, most of hip hop requires the DJ to produce the records to spin so that the beat and the production is made through a lot of computers. Roots, the music came out of guitars and drums and keyboards and whatnot. Um, he was with the Roots up until 1999. But of course, these guys always remain tight. So, um, well wishes go out to his family on this day, um, as uh, rapper Malik B dies at the age of 47 years old. So, once again, I'm Mills Lane, and this is The Lane. We're trying to make sure that we have the stories in line that things that we would like to discuss. Um, so the next major story for us Americans is that the United States has now passed 150,000 deaths related to the coronavirus. Of course, that's more than any country in the world. With California, Texas, and Florida having the highest 7-day average on death tolls. So, um, as we get into the middle of the summer, it's important to know that changes have started to be made, whether it's sports related. Changes have been made through, businesses, as far as businesses opening up that were formerly closed when the pandemic was in high gear in April. So even states like Pennsylvania are mentioning that they're currently in their second wave. So it's important to, for anyone who is in America, to try to follow the CDC guidelines the best you can. Make sure you wear a mask when you're around other people, and if you observe people who are not wearing a mask properly, then you should do the best you can to get away from those people. Uh-huh. There's no need for you to get sick. Now, as we were looking at, we talked about some of the new things that's coming up. It's important to know that school's right around the corner. So next thing we look at is when the schools did close last year, they think that 40,000 people have been saved, and as a result, if you listen to the current administration, we're not hearing a lot about um, school as to how we should go forward. There's no federal. The only federal mandate is that if schools do not open, they won't receive funding. So plenty of school districts are trying to put together a tentative plan as to how many days students should be in school versus virtual school. So it's important that if you have school children, that you keep an eye out for the administrations and you talk with the folks as far as their plans and making sure that it's something that you would like to get involved in yourself. Because nobody thinks about the kids just passing it to each other based on the low mortality rate between the children. But the big problem is when the children to their parents or their grandparents. So it's something that I'm keeping our eyes on as we look at this, look forward to the next things that's going forth as we approach August. As far as the sports, we talked about that on the last episode. Even more Florida Marlins players tested positive for COVID, and the team they played, the Philadelphia Phillies, they pushed their games back and they won't start back playing until Friday, the 31st. So we'll keep a little tab on that because baseball is one of the major sports to go first that's not using a bubble scenario where the teams are traveling and they're just basically being relied on to do the correct things. So we're keeping an eye on that. Something that happened today that's I kind of get upset when these things kind of get swept under the rug. There was some testimony today by Congress people. Oh yeah, and no, that's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. So the four major CEOs were testifying today. So when I say the four major CEOs, I'm talking about Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Google. So their CEOs had to testify today. So we're going to look at a video of Mark Zuckerberg, who's the CEO of the Facebook, and we're going to listen to him get grilled a little bit by Jay Powell. So please bear with as we try to see what he's exactly talking about.
That moving faster and copying other apps could, quote, prevent our competitors from getting footholds. Sheryl Sandberg responded that, quote, it is better. Mr. Zuckerberg, in March of 2012, you suggested by email to your management team that moving faster and copying other apps could, quote, prevent our competitors from getting footholds. Sheryl Sandberg responded that, quote, it is better to do more and move faster, especially if that means you don't have competitors build products that take some of our users. Facebook's management director added that, quote, I would love to be far more aggressive and nimble in copying competitors. Has Facebook ever taken steps to prevent competitors from getting footholds by copying competitors?
Congresswoman, I view it as our job to understand what people are finding valuable in all of the services that they use. And certainly if someone...
Do you copy your competitors?
Congresswoman, we've certainly adapted features that others have let in, as have others copied and adapted features that...
I'm not concerned about others. I'm just asking you, Mr. Zuckerberg, since March of 2012, after that email conversation, how many competitors did Facebook end up copying?
Congresswoman, I can't give you a number of companies.
Is it less than 5?
Congresswoman, I don't know.
Less than 50? Any estimates? Your team was making a plan. How did it play out?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure I agree with the premise here. Our job is to make sure that we build the best services for people to connect with all the people they care about. And a lot of that is done by innovating and by building new things that are leading to work internally.
Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg. Let me go on. Has Facebook ever threatened to clone the products of another company while also attempting to acquire that company?
Congresswoman, not that I recall.
And I'd like to just remind you that you are under oath, and there are quotes from Facebook's own documents. Prior to acquiring Instagram, Facebook began developing a similar product called Facebook Camera, correct?
Congresswoman, that's correct. I've said multiple times that we were competing in the space of building mobile cameras with Instagram. That's what they did at the time. Their competitive set was companies like what we were building with Facebook Camera and ViscoCam and Please.
Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg. Did you ever use this very similar Facebook Camera product to threaten Instagram's founder, Kevin Systrom?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what you would mean by threaten. I think it was public that we were building a camera app at the time. That was a well-documented thing.
Let me tell you that, in a chat, you told Mr. Systrom that Facebook was, quote, developing our own photo strategy. So how we engage now will also determine how much we're partners versus competitors down the line. Instagram's founder seemed to think that was a threat. He confided in an investor at the time that he feared you would go into, quote, destroy mode if he didn't sell Instagram to you. So let's just recap. Facebook cloned a popular product, approached the company you identified as a competitive threat, and told them that if they didn't let you buy them up, there would be consequences. Were there any other companies that you used the same tactic with while attempting to buy them?
Congresswoman, I want to respectfully disagree with the characterization. I think it was clear that this was a space that we were going to compete in one way or another. I don't view those conversations as a threat in any way.
I'm just using the documents and the testimony that the committee has collected from others. Did you warn Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snapchat, that Facebook was in the process of cloning the features of his company while also attempting to buy Snapchat?
Congresswoman, I don't remember those specific conversations, but that was also an area where it was very clear that we were going to be building something. People want to be able to communicate privately. They want to be able to communicate with all their friends at once. And we're going to make sure that we build the best products in all of the spaces that we can around helping people stay connected with the people they care about.
I appreciate that, Mr. Zuckerberg. I think the question again here is, when the dominant platform threatens its potential rivals, that should not be a normal business practice. Facebook is a case study, in my opinion, in monopoly power because your company harvests and monetizes our data, and then your company uses that data to spy on competitors and to copy, acquire, and kill rivals. You've used Facebook's power to threaten smaller competitors and to ensure that you always get your way. These tactics reinforce Facebook's dominance, which you then use in increasingly destructive ways. So Facebook's very model makes it impossible for new companies to flourish separately, and that harms our democracy. It harms mom and pop businesses, and it harms consumers. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Boom, people. Dealing with these antitrust, and they've guided Zuckerberg a couple of times because they're still concerned on how he was able to amass so much money without biting into their rules. So now that he has the money, and and these guys they have their side deals and they do their talking behind the scenes, and folks. A lot of people were like, why would you spend $1 billion on a company called Instagram that only had like 13 employees? Because you knew and you watched the analytics. And that's a lot of this is about. The antitrust is about the analytics. These companies, these giant companies, they see smaller companies and they just take from what they're doing and they try to incorporate it into theirs so that they can, people you know how complacent some people are. I know, like for a fact, I didn't want to really leave Facebook and have to start dealing with Instagram, but for market research, it was very necessary. So, yeah, like I said, they've grilled him multiple times. Let's go into somebody who hasn't been under Congress, scrutiny yet, was Bezos. And I think it's important to know that these companies, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, they really wasn't losing any money during this, this latest economic turmoil that we had. So let's get a video rolling with Bezos. Yeah, I think that's about fair. Da, 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 da.
I was born into great wealth. Thank you, Chairman Cicilline, Ranking Member Sensenbrenner, and members of the subcommittee. I was born into great wealth, not monetary wealth, but instead the wealth of a loving family, a family that fostered my curiosity and encouraged me to dream big. My mom, Jackie, had me when she was a 17-year-old high school student in Albuquerque. Being pregnant in high school was not popular.
Okay.
The school tried to kick her out, but she was allowed to finish after my grandfather negotiated terms with the principal. She couldn't have a locker, no extracurriculars, and couldn't walk across the stage to get her diploma. She graduated and was determined to continue her education, so she enrolled in night school, bringing me, her infant son, to class with her throughout. My dad's name is Miguel. He adopted me when I was 4. He was 16 when he came to the U.S. from Cuba by himself shortly after Castro took over. My dad didn't speak English, and he did not have an easy path. What he did have was grit and determination. He received a scholarship to college in Albuquerque, which is where he met my wife.
And this is pretty nice.
Together with my grandparents.
A little bit of fast forwarding
and
here.
We offer the best benefits that include comprehensive health insurance.
Oh, no. Because
would be big enough for all. We were betting that it was not a zero-sum game. Fortunately, we were right. There are now 1.7 million small and medium-sized businesses selling on Amazon. The trust customers put in us every day has allowed Amazon to create more jobs in the United States over the past decade than any other company. Hundreds of thousands of jobs across 42 states.
You see that stock, though.
Amazon employees make a minimum of $15 an hour, more than double the federal minimum wage. And we offer the best benefits that include comprehensive health insurance, 401k retirement, and parental leave, which includes 20 weeks of paid maternity leave. More than any place on earth, entrepreneurial companies start, grow, and thrive here in the U.S. We nurture entrepreneurs and startups with stable rule of law, the finest university system in the world, the freedom of democracy, and a deeply accepted culture of risk-taking. Of course, this great nation of ours is far from perfect. Even as we remember Congressman John Lewis and honor his legacy, we're in the middle of a much-needed race reckoning. We also face the challenges of climate change and income inequality.
Caught me.
And we're stumbling through the crisis of a global pandemic. Still, with all of our faults and problems, the rest of the world would love even the tiniest sip of the elixir we have here in the U.S. Immigrants like my dad see what a treasure this country is. They have perspective and often can see it even more
Whack
clearly.
off America, baby. Whack off America.
It is still day one for this country, and even in the face of today's humbling challenges, I have never been more optimistic about our future.
So, basically that was his opening to America. Oh gosh, what is that noise in the background?
Like, nope.
So that was his welcome into America. Basically, welcome into Congress. Yes, and what's interesting is I'll even say I use Amazon. I'm a shopper sometimes, and say I go looking in there for something, and maybe I don't see the price that I really like, so I just go like I'll go looking at some other store. Maybe it's at a brick and mortar store I can find on the way home or whatever, and I'll get an email a couple days later. Hey, you still interested in that camera? Like, why are you advertising me cameras? I looked, I didn't see what I wanted, and I moved on. So it's like the access that you give up when you use these services, Apple, Facebook, Google, and Amazon. The privacy you give up is amazing. So you better be careful on the things you go shopping for, because you're going to get emails about things you didn't buy. You'll get emails about things you brought that they feel as though have worn out, or you've used up what you've brought. So therefore, it's time to tell you to buy more. You just be, and that's what this meeting with Congress was about. It's like, sure, not every Congress person is going to grill these CEOs, because they realize how many jobs are tied in to Amazon, and plenty of jobs tied in American jobs, and you don't want to hurt the workers, but at the same time you want to make sure how a guy like Jeff Bezos last Monday was able to make $13 billion in one day. Yeah, just him. So it's nice to get them on record, get Zuckerberg on record again, try to trip him up, because corporate can be good, but it also can be greed. And we've heard from Enron, the Goldman Sachs, plenty of companies that pretty much used their positioning in a positive way for themselves. So to avoid, and that positive way for themselves, I should say, ended up being fraudulent. And to avoid that and harm being caused to the poorer Americans based on corporate greed, every once in a while they have to run by Congress to go over their antitrust. So it's very important. Um, and I'm going to wrap it up with that. This has been the Lane News for 7/29. I put 30, so let's fix that, because that's some real futuristic news there. All right. So the news for 7/29/30. If anybody catches that in the chat and you catch it early, leave a comment, say, hey, your date's off. We'll definitely salute you. But I'm Mills Lane, and thanks for joining us on The Lane. Have a great night.